Hey, Andy Moore here from Radial Games. Not showing off Fantastic Contraption today. Instead, I'm going to be showing off the room I build Fantastic Contraption in, some of the hardware and tech that I'm using to make this happen, and just, give you a little show of some of the gear. So, in the corners, I have these nice red poles. The great thing about these red poles is, first of all, you don't have to screw anything into the walls to mount lighthouses or cameras or anything like that. And you'll also notice up at the top, I can actually mount the lighthouse higher than the molding because it's going up above. So if you have like some fancy ceiling of some kind, you can actually get higher up than you normally would be able to with this kind of rig. So yeah, you could just get these poles. I'll put a link in the description to them on Amazon. They're pretty cheap and really solid, so highly recommend those. I've actually got 4 of those poles in the room. There's another one on that side, and the desk. So this is the standing desk that I use. Also converts to sitting desk, of course. You can see on the left-hand side, or your right, my left. There is another lighthouse in the opposite corner, and you can see it's flush up, right up tall against the ceiling. And also on this pole, I've mounted an Oculus camera right here. The Oculus camera and the lighthouses are both mounted with a really simple C-clamp, which has a standard camera mount on there. So you can connect pretty much anything standard to it. And as you can see, I also have Yeti Blue microphone. And over here on this side, I have the same clamp connected to an extra pole. And this clamp is mounted to a nice Lumix camera, which is the DMC FZ1000, and that's the one that I normally use for streaming. And because this camera is plugged in with HDMI into the capture card on the back of the computer here, that is what causes the lag. When you see me move my hand, but the controllers move before it in mixed reality, that's because the camera there is actually, the camera has to process through the HDMI cables before they get to the computer, and it just slows everything down. So yeah, this is the room. You could see got the red poles in every corner pretty much. This closet here has a bunch of servers and cables and things in it. I've actually turned the doors around so the mirrors are facing inward. Just makes things a little bit better. Down here, so you can see the computer is right up front. In a previous video, I showed off how I had the Oculus camera connected to this pole right about here, and this pole is right sort of in the middle of the wall on that side of the room. The reason for that is simply because when you have the camera around there and you take the cable, I was stretching the cable to the extreme end of it, which was the computer's front USB ports. And that is pretty much the maximum distance to get to the pole. So if when they ship the Oculus Touch camera, it has the same length USB cable as the one I have now. If you have the optimal setup, which is computer there and a shelf or a bookshelf or a pole or whatever you have in your room, you can only make it about that far. And there's a bit of slack in it because normally I bring it up to about that high. So that's a thing. You can use extension cords if they work. So I noticed that not all USB extenders work with this. They have to be good quality USB extension cables, and even then there's a maximum range on them. And it depends on the chipset on the computer end as well. So you can't just, go to the store and buy a USB 3 cable, because they are surprisingly not very well QA'd in the factory. They're usually good enough for most things, but not everything, and definitely not these high-end tracking cameras. All right, another quick little note here. I've got the breakout box for the HTC Vive. I've actually noticed that the Oculus cables do work in the HTC breakout box. So if you're lucky enough to have both the Oculus and the HTC Vive, you can actually gain, as you can see here, I have the breakout box out in front of the computer, right? Normally you'd have to plug these guys into the back of the computer, which loses you like a foot or two, especially with my beast of a computer there, which is like 2 feet long. So I've actually gained probably over 2 feet of usable cord space by using the HTC Vive breakout box. Now, I assume you can find some sort of generic breakout box if you don't have it. But that breakout box is really handy, and it's also powered, so it's like a powered USB hub plus HDMI repeater, so that's cool. One thing I did notice is that I have an HDMI to DisplayPort adapter that I was using from the breakout box to the PC. And that does not work with the Oculus. You have to use the straight HDMI out for the Oculus to work in the Vive breakout box. So I've just moved my computer monitor to the adapter, to the DisplayPort adapter, and I've moved the HTC Vive breakout box to the HDMI output on the computer. There we go. Okay, cool. These red poles, in case anyone's interested. Let's see. Nice simple pull system here. There's a quick release. You just press up, loosens it. Nice, no damage. It's got a quick selector here, so you can just telescope the whole thing up and down really fast. And then when you have it roughly at the right height, you just squeeze this and it pumps up the jack, and then it gets nice and solid on there. So really quick to release, really quick to set up. It goes from, you can collapse it all the way down to like this height. So it goes from something like 4 feet to I think 12 feet. So really, really handy for all sorts of kinds of spaces. And they come in different sizes too if you have different use cases. Anyway, I think that's all I wanted to show off. Yeah, cool. So if you want a streaming setup, this is kind of the optimal setup for it. You have a nice quality camera that can do HDMI output. I've also bought a custom battery adapter here. So there is actually a power cable going into the camera's battery case. This allows this particular camera to stream through HDMI, really high quality with really good glass on the front for forever. It doesn't overheat or run out of memory card space or anything like that. My capture computer setup, I've got an AverMedia Live Gamer Extreme HD or something like that capture card that I've got that camera plugged into on the computer there. And lighthouses in the corner, microphone, all that fun stuff. Anyway, that is where Fantastic Contraption is made. We have other VR setups in the office here, and we also have other computers, but this is the main development room. This is where I do almost all of the VR work we're doing with Fantastic Contraption. And yeah, if you want a nice tiny computer, this is a nice gigantic box I have under here. I actually just ordered one from Falcon Northwest, their Tiki box. It's a really nice computer. I love it. It's quiet, it's powerful, it's tiny, it's really easy to carry around, take it to shows and things like that. But it doesn't have a port in it to accept a capture card. So be careful of that if you're going to be doing some streaming. All right, that's all. See you around.